Shalom, shalom, shalom to the 12 tribes of Israel that have been scattered worldwide. This is More Yoshiyahu Dawid of the Ark, and I'm bringing you another video concerning our covenant relationship with YAH. And one of the points that I was trying to make in the previous lessons was that the whole world knows about our covenants except for us. And to answer the question of why is it seem that all this stuff keeps happening to us, Zion, is because unlike anyone else on planet Earth, you and I are in covenant. We prove with scripture beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are the biblical Israel that have been scattered, that according to the Bible would not know who we are and whose we are, but according to the prophecy, in the last day we would wake up to our true identity. And part of our waking up to our true identity is turning back to the covenant relationship that we have with YAH. And one of the things that has to happen, especially now, is the remnant of Yah's people must not only recognize that they're Yah's people, wake up to truth, and know that we're in a covenant, but then we have to put into practice the covenant that we have been placed into by our forefathers, namely Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Although we have proven that the covenants go all the way back to Adam. All right. And so each time I get started, I always end up with this long introduction. So you have to watch the other videos for the introduction. I just want to show you the covenants and how I did a simple Google search because I wanted you to be able to do the same Google search and find this information out. And of course, I use a dictionary that, of course, people say, well, you know, you shouldn't use this particular encyclopedia, and I understand that. But the purpose for me is just to let you know that the whole world knows that we are in a special covenant with Yah. All right, so I pulled up a Wikipedia article, and I typed in biblical covenant or covenant biblical. And of course, the very first words are the Hebrew Bible. So we know based on just even the introduction, and of course, you know, I forgot my tripod, so I'm trying to hold the camera. Zion. So we know right off the bat that the covenant, the biblical covenant, is Hebrew. And we also know that the biblical covenant is with the Hebrew people. So there's more to Hebrew than the Hebrew language. There's the Hebrew people, the Israelites. And the Bible is clear that the book is about us. It was written by our people, the Hebrew Israelites, Afro-Asiatic Hebrews. And it was written to us, and it was written for us. And of course, through us, all of the world would eventually we were supposed to be the light of the world and the salt of the earth. And it was through this covenant that salvation would come to the world, of course, in the person of our King, Yahushua HaMashiach. Okay, but before we get into that, I just want to show you that, of course, they know that the Bible's Hebrew. Starts off by saying the Hebrew Bible. It doesn't say the English Bible, it doesn't say the France Bible, it's the Hebrew scriptures, the people. All right, and of course, refers to a number of covenants, plural. And I've mentioned those before already, made with the Hebrew people. Yahuwah went into covenant with our people. The very first covenant that he went into with us is, of course, what they call the Edenic covenant, but it's really Adamic. It's Adam. They say it was made in Eden, of course, but we are the true descendants of Adam, what they call the first or the original man. And then, of course, these biblical covenants, as they are made between Yah and us, each time the covenant is made, there is a guarantee. And each time there is a guarantee of the covenant, there is the shedding of blood. So the shedding of blood is what guarantees the covenant. In other words, it's the thing that says, if you don't keep your part, then what's happening to these animals will be happening to you. All right. And so you can already see the significance in how serious our covenants are. From the very beginning, our covenants have been blood covenants. And so when you look at the covenant with Adam, it was a blood covenant. The covenant with Noah is a blood covenant. The covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all blood covenants. And of course, the covenant with Moses, is a blood covenant. And we'll get into the Davidic covenant a little later. But then the ultimate covenant is the covenant made with us through Hamashiach. And of course, what kind of covenant is that? Based on his own words, he says, this is the new covenant in my blood. So we move beyond sheep and beyond goats and turtle doves and all that to ratify or to guarantee the covenant. The way Yah set it up is that the covenant would ultimately be guaranteed in the blood of his only begotten Son, our King and our Savior, Yahushua HaMashiach, who in reality is the visible image of the invisible Yah. And therefore, the reason I've been spending so much time on this covenant issue is because Zion, if we don't wake up to what Yahushua did, we're gonna see the difference between the former covenants was that each time we had a covenant, and each time the covenant was broken, of course, they just brought more animals and more blood was shed. And what makes our waking up to the covenant truth so important now is that there won't be any more. After Hamashiach, there was no more shedding of blood for the covenant's sake. And if we continue to walk in violation of the covenant, then we're trampling the blood of Hamashiach, according to the book of Hebrews, under our feet. If the first covenants were covenants of blood, binding and so important and so powerful that mountains caught on fire and earthquakes and the dread and the fear of Yah was upon the people, how much more do you think this covenant that has been guaranteed by the blood of a Mashiach should bring reverence and awe in our heart and our lives to Yah? And so I want to just mention a few things that the whole world knows that I want to share with Israel. I want to share with you, because how is it that the very people that are the covenant people are the one people on the planet that don't know they're in the covenant? It's only one covenant people, Zion. That's you. It's Israel. And so therefore I want to talk to you about a few things. Okay. So first of all, when I went to this article, there were some very interesting things in here that I wanted you to see. First of all, they know about our covenant, and they know that our covenant was given to us by Abba Yah, and that is a binding covenant, and it is a blood covenant. If you pull up that article, you're going to find out that first of all, there are several covenants. As I mentioned before, the covenant in Eden with Adam about his relationship as far as dominion is concerned, and what would be the consequences if he broke the covenant with Yah. Then, of course, the Noah covenant, the Abrahamic covenant, the Mosaic covenant. And then there's a covenant in between, which is interesting because we'll pick this up too. It's the covenant of service. And we're going to find that out in the priesthood of Aaron, which, by the way, is like a placeholder. We'll get to that. That's another covenant. Why? Because the true priesthood is the Melchizedek priesthood. And so when we get to the to the Aaronic priesthood, we're going to see that that's a particular covenant of service that then is used temporarily until Hamashiach. And once Hamashiach comes, then Hamashiach resumes the Melchizedek priesthood. And that's a powerful covenant too, because it stood as long as Hamashiach, until Hamashiach got here. And then once he got here, he replaced that. But that's something for later. The Davidic covenant, and then of course the new covenant in our King. So I want you to know that the world knows this because it's out online. This is not something that I had to go deep to get. You can type this in anywhere and it'll tell you that the Hebrews, the Israelites, us, we are the ones that are in this covenant. This is our book, and this book is about our covenant relationship with Yah. All right. So I want to go to, if you're looking this up, I want to go to the article or to the paragraph titled Biblical Covenants, because as more of the Awakening Remnant Coalition, which is affectionately known as the ARC, I want you to know that I'm not really concerned about things that are not biblical. My concern for you whenever I get behind these cameras is to help you understand that Bible and to help you understand the way we are to live according to the Bible. All right. And so when I'm bringing this information up, there's other surrounding information, but I'm going to always focus on Scripture. So we were told in Romans chapter 9 that we were given, that one of the advantages of the Israelites was that we were given the covenants, and we were. And I went into that already, so I'm just going to go through them real quick. Now, this came offline. I want you to know this. They have our Adamic covenant, and then they wrote this. Same thing I've been teaching, but they wrote it, and I highlighted it. They said the Adamic covenant. Look at this. The Edenic covenant, which is Eden, right, applies to all humanity. Well, it can be found in Genesis chapter 1, 28 through 30. Oh, they know our book. I thought the Old Testament was done away with. Why are you still reading our book? Why is this information important? All right. So in this passage, Yah gives mankind a mandate to procreate. Yah gives mankind dominion over the earth and all the animals. So it's right there. It's to all humanity. All right, then let's go to the second one, the Noahic covenant. The Noahic covenant applies to all humanity. So you see Noah's covenant. So you got Adam. Now look, I'm reading it. All humanity. In this covenant, all living creatures, Yah promises never again to destroy the earth by flood. And of course, he used the rainbow as the ultimate symbol. The Abrahamic covenant. That covenant is found in Genesis. But notice what they said about the Abrahamic covenant. They said the Abrahamic covenant, the Brit bin Ahavrim, the covenant between the parts in Hebrew, and is the basis for the Brit Milah. Oh, they know the Hebrew, huh? Once you see it. The covenant was for Abraham and his seed or offspring both of natural birth and adoption. That's not me. And that's what we're taught. So we went from all humanity. I'm telling you, the world knows this. The world knows that the first covenant was all humanity. The second covenant with Noah, all humanity, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. But when we get down biblically to the Abrahamic covenant, we move from what? We move from one, or from a universal covenant to all people, to Abraham and his seed, or to his offspring. The world knows this. It's not hidden information. All right. And of course, with Abraham, he was given multiple land. He was in the covenant. He was given a great piece of land called the Promised Land. He was given multiple descendants that would outnumber, literally, it would outnumber everybody else on planet Earth. There'd be more Abrahamic children on this planet than anybody else, like the stars of the heaven, like the dust of the earth. And of course, that covenant was ratified in blood. We already know it was the division of the parts. They also know that covenant was sealed, just like I taught it. They said covenants in the biblical times were often sealed by severing an animal. How'd y'all know that? You studying the stuff that you telling us is done away with. That is important. We better know it. All right. And of course, in the Abrahamic covenant is where we got circumcision. Remember, the idea of a covenant, part of that idea is to cut. Right? You're going to take the animals and you cut it, and all that. So part of the evidence that we are in covenant with YAH, here's the word. The token that we are a covenant people is circumcision. Why? Because we've also then have the circumcision is the cutting of the flesh. So you see how that works? So then circumcision is passed on as a symbol that we are in the covenant with YAH. It's right there, Hebrew. And people say stuff like, ain't about Hebrews, ain't about no Jewish people, it's not about the, they don't even know with the Israelites. And it is something about Judah. There is something about Judah as a particular tribe. But anyway, I wanted to show you that. Then we move to the Mosaic covenant. And of course, now we move from all of Abraham's seed. When we get to Moses, now we're dealing with Israelite people. And again, they wrote it down too. That's all the reason why I'm making this video, is to show you that this information about who you are and whose you are and who you belong to is not secret. You can just type it in and you'll find out that you're in a covenant. And it says the Mosaic covenant made with Moses and the Israelite people. They didn't say the Mosaic covenant is made with the whole world and all the nations knows Israelites. So in Torah, I'm just going to look at to read this. In this covenant, YAH promises to make the Israelites his treasured possession among all people. How do you heathens know that? Oh, you're reading our book. But you're telling us not to read it so that we won't know that we're the most treasured people, the possessions of YAH among all the people. We were to be made what? A kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Oh, by the way, they even put the verses. Exodus 9:19:5, Exodus 19:6, Exodus 24:8. But steady telling you, it's been done away with. Know that this covenant is an everlasting covenant with me and you. that this covenant between that we have with our Abba, we were supposed to be taught this when we was kids, little kids. All right. Of course, in that particular covenant, we already went over it. The 10 Commandments were written on sapphire. And what I want you all to do at this particular time, I'm going to stop the video, and I want you to look it up, and I want you to go back if you get a chance. You need to read the covenant and see what that covenant has in it for you, Zion. And of course, when you start reading in Leviticus, Genesis. When you start reading Exodus, we'll just do that one. When you get to what they call the 10 Commandments, which this really is, read all of that, but you got to go all the way like down to 28. So you can't just stop there. There's a lot in our covenant. But one of the things that happens is he spends a lot of time dealing with the priestly covenant. And we'll get to that in a moment. But I want you to think about all of the promises that was made in that covenant, because he made a lot of promises. And then all of the warnings that he said if we decided not to keep the covenant. And when you get to Deuteronomy chapter 28, take your time and read those verses. And then think about it. Wow, do we want to continue to repeat the violations of our covenant that got our people in this situation in the first place? Until then, Zion, we'll see one another again. I want you, if Abba YAH says the same, I want you, until we see each other, I want you to look over that information and then pray to Abba YAH and make a commitment that you're going to walk according to the covenant of our ancestors. And of course, the greatest guarantee of the covenant, which is the very blood of Hamashiach. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Shalom.